Hey, welcome back to Chicago Reacts. My name is Colin, and this is part 3 of 3 of my reacting to every single Warhammer 40K Faction Explained Part 2 from the channel Bricky. So yeah, the videos have already been kind of running a little long. We're in part 3, so I'm going to keep this intro relatively short. If you haven't watched the other videos yet, go back, watch those, or go and watch those, then come back. Where we left off in the last video with the orcs, so we're gonna start that here. So with that being said, like, share, and subscribe, and let's get into it.
Every screen's gone red. That means I'm super fast.
Orcs, 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 orcs.
Orcs.
Fucking love orcs. So, yes, the green monsters, the green tide, the green skins. These orcs, they are in fact a race in 40K. The orcs are as exactly what you expect them. They have archaic weapons, they're big boys, they have axes, and they have got big old teeth, and they want to kill everything, and there are so many of them. The only reason they haven't taken over the entire galaxy is they can't stop murdering
Are those
each other.
blue orcs right here, or are they like? Or is that face paint, or is that like partially blue-skinned orcs? Looks like they're fighting the other fully green-skinned orcs. I don't know. Let me know, or maybe he'll explain it in a second here.
Orcs are so cool. Orcs don't have philosophy. Orcs don't have
pirate orcs.
crisis. What matters is who's the biggest orc. You listen to that guy because he the biggest orc. He big orc. Big orc knows best. You win through the power of imagination. Of all the races I have battled throughout the galaxy, the orc is the hardest to comprehend. They wage war with machines that should not work, care little for strategic gains, and are just as likely to slaughter each other as the enemy. How does one battle an enemy that defies all logic? As an orc, you're
an interesting question.
You're enjoying the life you're given. Your whole life and job and purpose is to get up and beat each other to death because you can. The biggest orc is the man who understands everything. He is the boss. And orcs have this really weird, like, big, dumb, stereotype British accent, which is just hilarious to me. Those are orcs. You fight. You like to fight. Your whole purpose is to fight. You wage war because you want to wage war. You got your boss over there, and you better listen to the boss, because if you don't listen to the boss will squish you and make you an example for the other orcs. And then you can't fight because orc dead. And orc dead can't fight.
Orc squished.
Dead. Orcs. They
dead orc can't fight.
Together machines out of parts that don't make any sense, and because they believe, they have the mental imagination that that machine will run, it'll run. If that machine's out of gas, you're driving that machine with your fellow orcs, and the biggest orc is behind the wheel, and you run out of gas, some orc behind you is like, oh, Zog, we're out of gas. And the big orc is like, no, we're not. I filled the fucking gas tank up earlier. And all the other orcs are like, oh yeah, you did do that. And then you turn the fucking mech back on and it works again. Does it have gas? Probably not, but it works.
Oh man. Now that might be the best power that I've heard so far in this game, to be able to just manifest your gas tank being full like that. I am sure we all have had moments where we wish we could do that, right? Right. All of us who are of driving age. I don't know how old you guys are that are watching this. I would imagine at least 16, right?
Imagination. They paint things red because it makes them think they goes faster.
Mm-hmm.
They paint things purple because it's the sneakiest color. You want to know why? You ever seen a purple orc? Didn't fucking think so. Orcs are also like ancient as hell. They're back in the Eldari time frame. But back then they were called Krorks, and they were much larger and scarier and far more intelligent. Now they're just orcs, and they're big, dumb, and they smack things. But they're pretty spooky. They're not very well armored, but they hit really hard. And it's called the Green Tide because there are so many orcs. There are about as many orcs as there are Tyranids. Maybe more. Who knows? But they keep on, murdering each other, so it's not too bad of an issue. Orcs are entirely comic relief. Their stuff is slapped together.
You're telling me the literal clowns were in comic relief? Well, maybe not for the human players or human characters in the game, but The comic relief for someone.
Makes no sense. Their vehicles don't work the way they're supposed to, but they work because they think it works, because they imagine that it works. Orcs care only about who is the biggest orc, and they will follow the biggest orc. And then if they want to be the biggest orc, they'll challenge the biggest orc. And then when they go and they issue a WA is just war in orc, they murder everybody and everything in this giant tide of green orcs who are just excited to be hitting something. They don't care that they're hitting Eldar or the Imperium or Tau or anyone in between. They're just so they get to beat shit up. That's orcs.
So essentially their power is brute strength and the secret. Like manifesting your dreams and your goals and your things you want. I put these metal bits together and they're going to work the way I imagine them to be. I'm going to manifest it. Nice.
And on the tabletop, they are a total coin flip, and they're really fun. I have never met a salty orc player. I have never met someone who plays orcs and is ever just a bad guy or that guy. Orc players have this kind of fun to them because when you play them, you are completely submitting yourself to RNG. So here's the thing. Guardsmen, Imperial Guardsmen, when they shoot, they roll a dice, and on a 4 up, they'll hit their target. They have a 50% chance. Space Marines, pretty good. They hit on a 3 or higher because they're well trained. Adeptus Custodians, they hit on 2s because they're just super well trained. Orcs, they hit on a 5 or higher. But if they roll a 6, they get to make another shot with anything. From the dinkiest pistol to the biggest rocket launcher. It doesn't matter. Half of their stuff will blow up on a whim. One of their medics, if you roll a 1 to heal someone, you fuck up your surgery and you just kill an orc. They're so wacky and silly. But the thing is if you roll well, you roll high, and you keep rolling high, you are going to crush people. And if you don't, you lose. I mean, that's what you get when you play orcs. That's what happens when you play orc. It's a coin flip, which is why you can't be a salty bitch when you play orcs, because things won't go your way.
Okay. A question I have, I guess, about tabletop role-playing games like this, because I've never really I've attempted to play Dungeons and Dragons once, like the very beginning of COVID. I tried doing it via Zoom. I think we did like two or three rounds, and then we just kind of gave it up after a while. But is the best way to approach these games to like not try to win necessarily, but to just try to create the most like entertaining story out of it, I guess? I mean, like you're playing as your characters, you're playing, towards your characters' objectives and goals, right? But like, I don't know. How do you, for those of you who play roll-top games, particularly this one, Warhammer 40K, like, what is your approach? Like when you sit down to play the game, are you trying to win something, or are you just trying to have fun? Or is it a little bit of both? I guess I'm just wondering where the role-playing part and the role-playing, like it's a little bit of like improv acting kind of thing, right? So is it, I don't know. Maybe this is a better question to ask someone in person than to ask people to like describe it to me in the comment section. So I don't know. If you ever see me out on the streets out here in Chicago, maybe don't give it to me all right then and there, but maybe let's find a time to chat later, I guess.
It's just the roll of the dice. You're playing a dice game. But if you're going to have fun and you want to be stupid and you want to be silly, you're going to play some damn orcs. But on the opposite
that sounds like
side,
what
the
I would
fun
play.
Part of this, let's talk about the Necrons.
Necrons. Guessing it has something to do with death,
are
right?
Scary skeletons and very grimdark again.
Yes.
They have a much more fleshed out lore than before. Back in the day, they were just
fleshed out for skeletons. Well, there was a joke in there that I was trying to think of something clever to say with, but it didn't go anywhere. So sorry for wasting all your time.
undead Egyptian space Terminators, and they still look that way, but now they actually have a story. So way back in the day, you had the Necron tier. Kind of see a theme here: Eldari, Eldar, Krork, Orc, Necron, Necron tier. So the Necron tier were this race of generally kind of shitty people. Not because they were personally shitty, because their lives were awful. They were ill-fated to a horrible existence of like radiation and a terrible planet they lived on, and everything just really sucked. Being a Necron tier was just really depressing. They really were looking for...
Living in this whole world is pretty depressing.
They were extremely reliant on the hope that they would eventually find the key to living forever and just stave off this horrible nature that they were thrust upon them, and therefore they could become the most dominant race in the galaxy. And they found this group. They're called the Old Ones. Imagine them kind of like the Forerunners in Halo or the Xel'Naga in StarCraft, right? These Old Ones were these strong, pretty much omnipotent beings. And they, of course, knew the key to immortality. So the Necrons went to them and said, please, show us your ways. And the Old Ones said,
no.
Face off. Not really.
Yeah.
They were a lot more humble about it. But they did not want to share their secret of immortality with the Necrons. The Necrons, of course, took this very well and waged war with them, kind of under this united banner. The Necron different dynasties didn't really like each other, but under this one man, the Silent King, he thought the best way to unite his race was to do
Someone skipped leg day.
this giant war with the Old Ones out of spite for them keeping the secret of immortality to them. This was known as the War in Heaven, and this is actually like a multi-stage war, because during this war in heaven, they discovered the Star Gods, a whole new race of people known as the Catan, or Catan. These Star Gods were also very much like Old Ones, almost omnipotent beings, and they too had the key to immortality. And so the Necrons went to them and said, hey, can you help us fight off the Old Ones? Can you help us kill these Old Ones, you, the Catan? And the Catan said yes. And in fact, we can help provide you with the immortality you so desperately seek. So the Silent King of the Necrons decided to make a pact with the Catan to allow them to accept this generous gift of immortality upon them. But this, of course, had been a horrendous trap, and the Necrons were dragged in chains to this biotransference where their flesh was stripped from them, replaced with nothing but a metal hollow shell, as their souls were ripped from their body and fed to the Catan. And the Catan fattened up. They got chonk on the souls of the Necrons. As this was their plan all along, they consumed the flesh and souls of the Necron tier and turned them all into unwilling robotic slaves just to serve their will.
Well,
And
that's
then,
rude.
With their new-founded Necron army, they pointed their guns at the Old Ones, and the Catan continued their domination of the stars and their genocide, complete and full genocide of these Old Ones. The Old Ones did
Okay,
their
so
best.
is it then that all the Necrons now are all of them are slaves? The whole race of them are slaves to the Catan? Or are there still some out there of their own, what do you call it? Freedom, I guess. I was thinking of a different word than freedom, but autonomy. There we go. Are there Necrons out there with still some autonomy?
To stave it off, they even created other races, the Eldari and the Orcs, to try to fight off the horrifying Necron army and the Catan above them. But there was absolutely no possible chance for them. And the Old Ones were absolutely extinguished across the galaxy. Their entire race completely removed.
There you go.
Full-on 100% genocide.
Yep,
However,
that answered my
during all
question.
this, the Catan, so just infatuated with their victory, started fighting each other for fun, for sport, and for small differences. Doesn't matter. The Catan, with these overpowered people, they're going to eventually hit each other at some point. And as they began just menially fighting each other, the Eldari and the Orcs actually started pushing on the Catan's borders a little bit, giving them a little bit of a run for their money. And as this continued, this is when the Silent King, who retained his consciousness, decided to leap into action and start a full scale revolt against their Catan masters. And this revolt was bloody, as the entire Necron army was surged off to destroy these star gods. They were able to, just after suffering horrendous losses, were able to turn the tide of the war. And they took these Catan and they blasted them. Because as these star gods are unkillable.
Wait, but the Catan ate all their souls? So, like, how... I feel like there's a step missing there that was not explained of how they gained their sentience back. So I understand the Silent King was able to retain his consciousness. But how did he get his fellow Necrons, right? Yeah. How did he get them to, I don't know, come back online and to consciousness and follow him? I feel like I'm missing something.
They were able to break them into thousands of shards and entrap them in giant stasis vaults to now actually be slaves to the Necrons. And with the Necrons having the entirety of their old gods enslaved to them, they realized that soon their race was about to be attacked by the overcoming new races, the Eldari and the Krorks. And so what they did is they retreated into giant stasis tombs in order to preserve their energy and their strength for when one day they would be reawakened and they would be able to rule the galaxy that was rightfully theirs. And then some dingus Adeptus Mechanicus guy diddled with a green console, and now the Necrons are back, and they see all these primitive races on their lawns, and they think, get the fuck off of it. So the Necrons are back, super advanced, and they are here to reclaim the galaxy that they so rightfully believe is theirs. Now, at tabletop, they're a lot like that. Tons of undead Egyptian skeleton robots that when they die, they just get right back up because they keep on reanimating. Hard to kill, tons of crazy stuff. You can use the Catan themselves as units to fight with. It's pretty cool. The Necrons are one of the three major events in 40K. The Horus Heresy, the Fall of the Eldar, and the Awakening of the Necrons are all pretty substantial events. And the Necrons themselves are pretty dang cool as well. Here's a good quote from a wonderful Dawn of War game. Lucky creatures, as long last you have found the tranquility of death. I was like you once, clinging to life and blind to the truth. When I uncovered the truth, I too shuddered and paled with fear. Deep in these catacombs I was remade. Here my brethren slumbered for eons while the living grew like weed. My Lord knew this day would come. He had plans for us all. We would purge this world once more. So come, poor victims of life. We will grant you tranquility in these crypts. Kronos will be a tomb world once more. Necrons are also pretty smug.
Dope.
Trazen the Infinite especially. A little dickhead. But speaking of dickheads, last race. Let's talk the Tau.
We made a fucking walkie.
The exact formation of the Tau Empire is not entirely understood. However,
The legs, man,
a
the
long time
legs.
ago, many thousands of years ago, us in the 40K world, that is, some Imperial navigation vessels were going around through different areas.
That is a cool ship. Hang on a second. Was that like a whole fucking palace on top of that ship? Hang on a second.
In the 40K world, that is. Some Imperial...
Yeah, look at that. Goddamn, that's like the Taj Mahal on top of that thing. That's awesome. The ship actually kind of reminds me of the what's it called, the big ship from and you guys see the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. It's based off of the ship from was it 30,000 Leagues Under the Sea or 20,000? Is it 20,000? Yeah, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. The ship from that, is it called like the Nautilus or something like that? Right? Kind of reminds me of that ship from League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. That kind of steampunky, kind of slicing sort of ship shape. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Let's keep going.
Navigation vessels were going around through different areas, and they saw a primitive race, blue people, smacking each other with sticks and stones. They thought, dumb Xenos race, who gives a shit, and they bailed. Then this giant warp storm occurred right in that major area, unable to be breached. Then, once that warp storm 6,000 years later subsided, hello, those little sticks, Well, they decided to actually have no war of any kind and all just unite together under one flag of the Tau Empire. And now they have gigantic starships and Gundam robots and lasers and railguns and mechs, and they are here to ruin your day for the greater good. That is generally the Tau Empire. They have this kind of feeling of this homogenous group. All species can go underneath the banner of the greater good. The greater good is their idea of the fundamental increase and help of all. In fact, they are most likely the most like the Covenant in Halo, where they have the overarching prophets, being the ethereals, who are actually kind of dicks and like to pull at strings a little bit, but then you have all these different races directly underneath them, and they all work together in this big group as this large, foreboding race that tries to spread their weirdly pseudo-religious influence across the galaxy. The alien is not intrinsically evil. Do not hate him. Pity him, his ignorance. Seek to understand his differences and equate him with his inadequacies. Only then will he accept his place in the greater good.
The greater good.
Generally the Tau. And if you're kind of wondering like what their mainly big shtick is, well, they're all about big robots and mechs. They have laser rifles and rail guns. They got giant mechs with tons of missile pods and heavy rail rifles and rail guns and burst cannons and ion accelerators and void shields and all this stuff. And that is generally what the Tau's all about. But you're probably thinking, Bricky, this doesn't sound that evil. This doesn't sound very grim, dark Warhammer.
Maybe I don't need to point this out, but for fellow Star Wars fans out there, these blue guys definitely look like that one character. If you guys saw the Book of Boba Fett, or I guess he originally showed up in the Clone Wars series, kind of a cowboy type bounty hunter character. Looks exactly like that. I mean, with the blue skin, the lack of nose, long kind of face, the eye. I mean, lacking the red eyes, I think, but he has like the I don't know what we call that, kind of like the face, head, neck thing with the ears. It looks almost identical, except for the red eyes, pretty much. Yeah. I know there's a lot of similarities between the designs, aesthetically with Star Wars and Warhammer 40K, but like sometimes it seems like they're straight up ripping some of the designs directly from Star Wars, or is it vice versa? I'm really not sure. Like how long has Warhammer been around? I'll have to look that up eventually. I'll look it up after this one. But yeah.
And you'd be right. The Tau Empire really don't have that much of a horrifying, grim, dark style like everybody else. They're much more younger, new age thing. In fact, they're probably a lot less evil and a lot even better than they are now back in the day, because they liked having like that good guy faction. But a lot of us who really like the dark, depressing style of Warhammer didn't really like it that much. So, see, the Tau get a lot of hate, and a lot of that hate isn't necessarily unjustified. It's mainly from a tabletop perspective, but as you can see from all the visuals I've shown you recently, they don't really fit in the 40K universe very well. They lack that super dark, dramatic, kind of high gothic level the Imperium has. They don't have the weird kind of like grungy stuff that Chaos or say the Orcs do. And the Necrons and the Eldar have their own specific style as well. The Tau really do look like something out of Gundam. And while it isn't necessarily a bad thing, it does definitely not fit too well. There's that. There's also the tabletop problem. In tabletop, Tau are horrible at melee combat, but exceptionally good at range combat. So they blast everyone from really, really far away, and they have a million rules to make it so that it's nearly impossible for you to get into melee combat. So it basically just forces you to bottleneck the game into one specific gameplay style, which is gun to gun. And if you're doing gun to gun, they're going to win every time, because they're the Tau, and the Tau are really damn good at shooting. So it's one of those things that make the Tau generally rather hated, and a lot of different reasons for that, both from style and such. But this is actually one of the things I wanted to end this video with, is that the Tau, while they have their issues, you should not be discouraged from playing them. I'll make plenty of Tau weeaboo jokes, of course I will, but it's all generally in good fun. Anyone who legitimately doesn't want you to play a faction is an idiot, and you shouldn't be giving them the time of day. You pick what you think is cool and what you like. In Warhammer, especially now, factions get better and they get worse. They grow and then they fall. You should only be playing what you think is cool. You like the look, you like the models. If you're talking tabletop, that is what you should be going for every time, is what you think is badass, because things change all the time. But the universe of Warhammer has so much going for it. Every faction has something interesting, every character has a story, and there's a million stories to be told. The universe is vast and exciting, and while it is dark, depressing, and horrible, that is the damn charm. And out of everything I've told you in these two videos, if anything you could take away is the reason why so many of us are so into this series and why we like it so much. Because with so much variety, such an expansive universe, and so much that can be done, you can find yourself having a pretty great time. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it has been informative to you. If you'd like to see more of me, Bricky, you have twitch.tv/Bricky for my streams. You have my merchandise site, in which I was wearing all of my merch, but underneath this, because I had to wear this so it wasn't black or white for the green screen, which is a little unfortunate, but it's fine. If you'd like to see merch, it is in the description. Also, if you'd like to support me on my Patreon page at patreon.com/Bricky for more videos like this, then that would also be wonderful. So Twitch, merch, Patreon, anything if you want to support, that would be fantastic. I'd appreciate it. If not, I'm just stoked you got all the way to the end of the video, and that is enough for me. So I'm going to be having some more content like this out in the future. Thank you so much for sticking around this long and being with me through this pretty rough time. That's, I think, all I got. Also, before I go, let me leave you with my favorite Warhammer quote. "He who scoffs at the power of the las gun has never ran through a field of 1,000 of them." Bye-bye.
Alrighty. Okay, so we've made it to the end of this pretty lengthy series here. I'm assuming there's not a... I don't think there's a part 3. What is this? Yeah, that's part 1. So, okay. I guess that's all the factions then? If Bricky left any of them out, let me know in the comments, and I'll I guess do my own research or try to find maybe another video that Bricky did. Yeah. With that being said, I'd also like to thank again Bricky for putting this all together, you know, to educate myself and others like me who are new to this and want to learn more about the game and the world or the universe of this IP. So yeah, man, I've just not only this, but there's been a few video games videos that I've reacted to, and just I want to play them all now. Like this has been this is definitely, videos like this have really been getting me to want to play these games. And there is, you know, a tabletop role-playing game store, I guess. You know, you can buy shit there, but you can also play, you know, these role-playing games, tabletop games. They're pretty close to me, so maybe I should go check that out. I got the resources at my fingertips, I guess, so I don't know. Should I start with Warhammer 40K, do you guys think? Or is there something that's a better introduction to tabletop role-playing games? Let me know. But yeah, this has been a long enough of a video, but like Bricky said, thanks for sticking around this long. I hope you enjoyed watching this series here. And I don't know what next Warhammer 40K video I'll be reacting to, but I assume there'll be one in the not too distant future, so keep a lookout for that. If you like, share, and subscribe, that's a good way to keep an eye out for that, to get notified when the next video, at least for me reacting, comes out. Or I guess for everybody, if you're liking and sharing for the subscribing to the whole channel. You're not just going to see me. There's a few reactors that you'll probably see. Yeah, like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.